What is up, everybody? Domonique Henderson here, your CFP on YouTube. We are live streaming on a Wednesday. So if you are with us, let me know. I would love to shout you out, give you some love. Make sure you like and share this podcast with all your friends, all the aspiring financial professionals and existing financial professionals that are listening to my phone ring in the background. It's so weird. Anyways. But it's great. It's great. This is a good time for you to be with us today. If you're out there and you're an existing financial professional, I want you to be thinking about this particular question. How do you bring more value to the client relationship, right? I know that you've had those thoughts at night about if my client's going to leave me, if their competition is doing something better than I am. And how do you solidify your value to that client relationship, beside all the other stuff that you know that you're supposed to do, the table stakes stuff, but how do you go beyond that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Really, really super excited. I have a pro on that is going to help me take care of this. And I want to, without further ado, bring on Mr. Steven Sless. What's going on, Steven?
What's good, sir? Great to be with you.
Yes, man. We've been planning this for a little while, and I'm so happy to see you here with the nice, full beard. It is, dude, it's a personality of its own.
Went to the barbershop just for you today, just for you and all the viewers.
This is great. It's going to be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to some of this information that you're going to give us. But I always like to kind of start with, give us your background, kind of let us know what Steven Sless is all about, what you're into as far as this whole, home wealth and reverse mortgage and stuff. Man, you got a lot of stuff that you credentialed to do, but just kind of give us a little bit about you and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, well, it's great to be with you again. I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited. This is going to be a fantastic hour. A little bit about me. I am a mortgage industry vet. Got into the mortgage industry in 2003, and for the first 5 years did what most mortgage originators do, and that's a little bit of everything, right? We did a lot of, in those days, there was a lot of subprime, but purchases, refinance, cash out, home equity lines of credit, you name it. And then in 2008, kind of coinciding with the last financial meltdown, I realized that there was a greater calling for me within the mortgage business, and that was to work with folks that are close to or in retirement to create a better retirement by way of a reverse mortgage. At that time, I had the same misconceptions then that a lot of folks have today. It's too good to be true. The government's going to take your home, or the lender's going to take your home. And so I was very, very hesitant at first to jump into reverse. But like we're going to encourage a lot of these professionals that are on to do tonight, I empowered myself and just was a sponge for education. And through that education, I realized that the reverse mortgage program is an unbelievably versatile way to leverage housing wealth. And since 2008, I haven't originated another traditional mortgage. I have exclusively, and my team and I both have exclusively worked with reverse mortgages since then. And I got to say, it was the best career move I ever made, and the most rewarding as well, because we're helping folks age in place and we're helping them live retirement on their terms. So it's been phenomenal. I have a great team at the Steven J. Sless Group, just world-class. We have 55 years of reverse mortgage experience. So we close loans quickly, efficiently, and we educate our clients about how they can leverage their housing wealth to create a better retirement.
That's great, man. I think that's why I wanted to have you on, because you hit on something that I think is key, is the misconception, right? I don't remember exactly, but it sounds good to tell people that the way we met was through social media and you saw one of my YouTube videos. So that's the story I'm going to use on reverse mortgage.
Exactly what happened.
And so, I tackled the topic just because I thought that, like you, there was a lot of misconception, and I was only, just the tip of the iceberg. I've gotten so many people that have DM'd me and messaged me and commented on that video. I was like, oh, didn't really expect that.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you're here to bring some clarity to everything, man.
Yeah, you know, we every day we dispel the myths and misconceptions, and we educate. You know, and all it takes is sitting down with us. I mean, this platform is tremendous. To be able to really take an hour-long deep dive into housing wealth and reverse mortgages, phenomenal. But you know, every single time we sit down with a financial advisor, we change the mindset of how home equity for folks over 62 should be utilized. Every single time. And I can't tell you how many advisors I've met with over the years that thought I was going to be in and out of their office in 5 minutes, and we wound up sitting there for 2 hours, and they're like, how did I not know about this before? It's an amazing financial tool, but there's a lot to it, not for everybody. The first thing that we help identify is who's suitable for a reverse mortgage. What does that clientele look like? What should we as the advisor be looking for? And once they're able to identify those couple key points, they call on us. We educate them. We educate the client. We meet with their family, their loved ones. And it's just fantastic.
Yeah. So let's get into that misconception, because I think that's probably a good domino to first knock over first is, you know, what is a reverse mortgage and what do people most commonly confuse this particular product with in regards to the constraints around it, I guess.
Yeah, perfect starting point. So a reverse mortgage is simple. It's a mortgage loan for folks that are 62 and older, and it allows them to gain access to the wealth in their home and convert that wealth into cash. They can take the funds in a variety of different ways, and there's the option to defer payback until the last remaining borrower leaves the home. So from a cash flow perspective, they're able to take back the equity they paid into their home over the years. They're able to protect and preserve their other assets because now they have another bucket of money that they didn't have access to before, and they can defer repayment until they leave the home. They can also make payments. And so that's one misconception, is they can't make a monthly mortgage payment and they can't pay down the debt. It's up to them. So the reverse mortgage is the most flexible mortgage product on the market today. It allows you to pay the balance down if you want, but it also allows the folks to defer payback until the last homeowner leaves the home, and freeing up that additional cash flow could be the difference between outliving their money or not.
Yeah. And I think that's a key point too, because a lot of people don't realize as a home likely being, depending on where you are in life, likely being the biggest part of your balance sheet, at least from a net worth standpoint, that the only way that you can monetize this traditionally is to sell it. But people don't want to part with that asset, right? It's like you can obviously, do cash out refis and all this other kind of stuff before you get to age 62. But when you're starting to think about, okay, I want to be actually in this home. This is the home that we built. This is the home we raised our kids in, whatever your deal is. But I want the money out, but I don't want to sell my home. And this is an excellent tool, it seems, in order to kind of have your cake and eat it too, if I'm not mistaken.
And let's think about this, because that's a great point. So if you're 70, right, and the bulk of your net worth does lie within the equity in your home, and you need to tap into that equity to not outlive your money or to be able to fund aging in place, what are the options? So you said it, the first option is sell the house. But what if I don't want to sell the house? Right. Yeah. For most folks that are in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, they want to age in place if they can afford to, and the house is suitable to do so. What's the other option? A mortgage. Take out a mortgage on it. Most mortgages come with a term that's going to be 15, 20, or 30 years. Do you want to be 70 and have a mortgage payment into your 80s, 90s, or till you're 100 years old? And it is likely in today's day and age that you could live to 100. Right? Longevity is the #1 risk in retirement, because we don't know how long we're going to live. How in the world can we plan to not run out of money if we don't, if that number is unknown? So the third option to access the housing wealth is a reverse mortgage. Yeah. And the reverse mortgage gives you access to that equity, just like a traditional mortgage does, just like a home equity line of credit does, but there's no mandatory mortgage payment. You can pay anything you want to at any time. You still own the house. That's another huge misconception, that somehow you're giving up ownership of the home. You're not. It's just a mortgage. You determine if you make payments or not. If you don't, the balance rises over time, and that balance gets paid back when you leave the home.
So talk about because I think that the one that you just hit on is this whole thing about I lose ownership. And I don't know where that myth came from. And I'll be honest, I may have even said this, years ago before I did some research I don't know why do people think that? Do they think that just because in exchange for payments to live in a house to pay down the balance, when you're not making those payments anymore, they figure like there's got to be some kind of I gotcha. I don't know. What do you have any inkling as to where this came from?
Oh, I got a lot of inklings. I look at a few things. One, traditionally the way that the product has been marketed over the years, to me, isn't beneficial to our industry.
Why is that?
On TV, it's gain access to your house, to the home equity, and no monthly mortgage payments. It sounds too good to be true. Now, it is true. There is no monthly mortgage payment that's mandatory, but there is an interest. It's a mortgage, right? So there's an interest rate. That interest rate is added to the balance of your loan, and that's going to compound and grow over time. So your value is increasing. The loan's not too good to be true. You don't have to make a mortgage payment, so that part is true. But it's very difficult for our message to be conveyed in a 30-second or a 60-second long TV commercial. And most of the time, that's where the general public is consuming their information. I hope that they're going to watch streams like this. I'm starting a podcast in the winter. I hope that they consume content that way and really become educated. But you also have, and look, this is an open forum. You have the Dave Ramseys of the world and the Susie Ormans of the world that don't have clue number one, what a reverse mortgage is, how it works. They have their own agenda. The media sometimes reports on reverse mortgages, and I read these articles, and I want to pull whatever hair I have left, at least on my head. I don't have to worry about that here. Whatever hair I have left on my head, I want to pull it out because I'm like, this is blatantly false information that's being put out. But in today's day and age, almost anybody can put out information about any topic, and that's perceived to be true if it's on the internet or if it's on TV. You have to sit down with a professional that understands reverse mortgages, that can talk with your financial advisor to determine what the best way to structure a reverse mortgage, if it's suitable for you and your retirement needs, should be. But to be clear, 100% perfectly clear, you never give up ownership of your home. It's a mortgage loan, period.
Got it. No, I appreciate that clarity there. If you're just tuning in or just watching, we are chopping it up with Stephen Sless of the Sless Group. That is, Stephen and his team have been specializing in reverse mortgage. I think you told me, or you said earlier, more than 55 years of combined experience with the reverse mortgages.
Exclusive to reverse mortgages, yeah.
Exclusive to this industry. So if you have, if you're a financial advisor out there and you're talking to a demographic or working with a demographic of clients that are nearing retirement, 62 and older, or even before that, because some planning might need to be done in their case, you definitely need to reach out. We're going to have his information. Just keep on watching. We're going to answer some more questions. Lob those questions up. You can throw them in the chat. Would love to get to them at some point during this discussion. So let's talk about this seemingly elephant in the room, because I love to kind of step on toes and be polarizing a little bit. Why do you feel financial advisors, financial professionals avoid this topic with their clients? Like what? Because I'm just thinking through this, some of this stuff, the examples that you and I have talked about, and we'll lob up another one here. But as a financial professional, I almost feel like you're doing a disservice to not know about this and bring another level of value and options to your client base. Why are financial professionals avoiding this? Maybe you have a take on this.
Yeah, I got a lot of hot takes on this. And let's start off with this.
Yeah.
If you're a financial advisor and you're a fiduciary, or you're supposed to have the client's best interest in mind, and you ignore the wealth in their home, you're doing your client a disservice. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of fantastic financial advisors out there that we work with a lot of them that do understand the value of housing wealth, that understand that to create a modern day retirement strategy, home equity at least should be looked at. Whether it's suitable or not, different story. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Depends on a litany of other issues. What are the plans for long-term care? What are the plans for healthcare costs? Is the home suitable for their aging needs as the client is growing older? So there's a lot of variables at play. One reason I think is misinformation. They hear it's too good to be true. They hear that you're going to take their home or whatever they've seen or heard, and they don't take the time to really take a deeper dive. That's number one. Number two. A lot of financial advisors, I think, are disconnected with the everyday average American. And I like to classify financial advisors in two categories. I like to say there's wealth movers, right? They're the ones with the big minimums. I'm not working with you unless you have $500,000 or $1 million. They move wealth around. There's not a lot of planning. There's enough money there. It's really just where you're going to allocate the assets.
Got it.
And then there's your active financial advisors that are either fee-based or commission-based. To me, it doesn't really matter. But they're actively involved in the planning of retirement from the wealth accumulation phase all the way through distribution. And to me, working with older clients, as long as I have, it's the distribution element that throws them off. I think most Americans that reach that retirement age have done a reasonably good job of accumulating some level of wealth. It might not be enough to make it through their entire retirement, but they've done a decent job. They have no idea what distribution even is, how much they can take safely to live a comfortable retirement, and how much they can take without running out of money. So it takes a financial advisor to be involved with that client to not only move money, but to help them in the planning phases, to understand how much guaranteed income they have coming in, and how much wealth they have in their home. And then speak to us about whether it's going to be beneficial to look at a reverse mortgage as a potential option. And then you also have your financial advisors that just have their own agenda, and their shtick, for lack of better terms, is they say no to everything. Don't buy life insurance. Don't buy long-term care. Don't take a reverse mortgage. And they want to be the hero. And that's well and good. I want to be a hero to clients too. But don't overlook what is in most cases their largest asset. Or don't overlook life insurance. Don't overlook long-term care. In order to create a holistic top-down approach where you're using all of your clients' assets instead of just a few, you have to involve all facets of retirement planning.
No, I won't disagree with that one iota. I think in what I'm trying to articulate to some degree of, I guess, average or above average quality is that as a financial professional, and I'll use the term financial professional, the industry, I feel, has not done a really good job to educate the consumer on the different types of financial professionals. Yeah. Even with Reg BI, which is a watered down version of what we probably should have in this industry, which is a whole nother podcast, that is not enough teeth to tell the consumer or signal to the consumer who they should be working with. I and a lot of my friends already agree that the bar is too low to become a financial advisor or to use that title as a financial advisor. So I'm more appealing to that person. At least this platform is built to appeal to that person that wants to deliver real financial advice. And when I say real financial advice, I mean that in the continuum of financial care, there's different elements that your client may need. At some time, they're going to need your coaching skills. At some point, they're going to need your financial planning skills. At some point, they're going to need, products and services. So you need to wear and be prepared to wear all those hats as a fiduciary, as you said. And I think that holistic view allows our industry and the professional that's serving in that industry to look at all the different available options so that we get the client to the desired outcome.
Preach on. And before we move forward, while it's fresh in my mind, I want to go back for a moment too, because I think this is important. It's an important point to make. I think a lot of financial advisors still to this day believe that a reverse mortgage should only be used as a last resort. And that's the exact opposite. It should be a part of the planning strategy from as early on as possible, because housing wealth is, in most cases, going to be your client's largest asset. So starting to have that conversation about how you leverage that asset strategically and tax efficiently is going to create a safer and a more secure retirement plan as your client grows older. And it enables them to protect and preserve their other assets. And I know that's a topic we're going to get to, but I just wanted to make that point that a reverse mortgage is anything but a loan of last resort. It was used as a loan of last resort up until guidelines changed in 2015, which to me was the best thing that ever happened to our industry, because the product at that point became a well-rounded financial planning tool, not a loan of last resort. So just wanted to make that point.
No, and I think this is actually a good segue, Stephen, into if you don't mind sharing some of the details of the loan that you said you just closed, because I think it offers not only reinforces what you just said of this not being a loan of last resort and a tool to be used inside a financial plan, but it provides an example of how you can protect your other assets, including business assets, right? We're in a pandemic right now, and a lot of businesses have shown that, well, we're not really pandemic ready, if anybody ever was, but some businesses obviously are not as prepared to handle this. And, we saw, businesses lose 30, 40, 50% or more of their top line revenue. Talk about, if you can, that example that you gave right before we started that was able to help this business owner.
Yeah. So we had a client come to us by way of referral from a financial advisor back in, gosh, what month are we even in? I don't even know where time has gone this year. We're in August. So this was in June, and we started working with this client in Boca Raton, Florida, right on the intercoastal, beautiful home, $4.5 million house, free and clear. There's a lot of financial advisors on this show tonight. Would you think that somebody with the means to have a $4.5 million home that's free and clear and plenty of other assets would be a great candidate for a reverse mortgage? Turned out to be the most ideal candidate. This particular person, without going into too much detail, is in a business that is totally cash flow strapped right now. It's one of the businesses that has been majorly affected by COVID, and it's starting to get better, but it's not quite there yet. So he was in a pinch for cash flow. And so in having a conversation with his advisor, they were going to either sell off assets or look for other means to fund his business. He wanted to make sure that this person was adamant, I am not laying off a single employee. Okay, let's help you do that. So he has plenty of other assets. The guy on paper was worth $7-8 million. Could have taken it from anywhere. He thought he was going to need a few $1,000,000 to meet payroll until his income starts coming back. So we set up a Zoom call, which is the new way of doing things.
Yeah.
With his advisor and himself and his wife. And we jumped right on and we looked at all the other assets he had, and we looked at the tax implication of drawing from those assets versus leveraging the wealth in the home. We were able to get him almost $2.3 million in cash in hand. Not quite the $3 million, but now he only has to take another $700K from his investment portfolio. He leveraged almost $2.3 million from his home, tax-free cash that he can choose to make a payment back on, or he doesn't have to pay it back. His plan, because he's somebody that makes a lot of money and he has a lot of means when business is normal, his plan is to pay it back. Great. If he doesn't, or if the business is affected for a longer period of time, there is no mandatory requirement to make a monthly mortgage payment back. So in the conversation, the term came up, asset reallocation. And that clicked with me. That's exactly what we did for him. We moved an asset from here to here, which prevented him from having to move all these other assets from over here, pay taxes on them, and then limit future growth on those assets because, of course, working with a great financial advisor, he's making pretty good returns right now. So the more you can leave in your other accounts and the more you can leverage from the home tax efficiently, we were able to set this guy up with a reverse mortgage loan. And you just wouldn't think that that type of person would make a great reverse mortgage candidate, but he did, and it was a great story.
No, I think I'm good, and thank you for sharing that. I think you bring up another point that was maybe lost on me before looking at your material and starting to educate myself, is the tax advantage and the tax efficiency. Because when you start to think about, having an investment portfolio, you got your taxable bucket or you have your non-taxable bucket, right? And so even with the withdrawals off of those, I mean, there are tax implications, especially if you have to think about short and long-term capital gains with asset disposition and whatnot. So I think that's an excellent point, because this is access to that cash without any tax implications. Is there zero tax implications? I want to just understand that.
No, because it's a loan. It's not classified as income. It's a loan. Like you made that money, you paid taxes on it, and then you paid into the house. So now you can draw this money back out completely tax-free and create another tax-free bucket of money to use in a variety of different ways. I mean, that's just one. That's a pretty extreme example with a high net worth individual and a multi-million-dollar home. But that same principle holds true with, folks that have homes that are worth $200,000 or $300,000 or $150,000. The equity in your home, when leveraged correctly by way of a reverse mortgage, is tax-free. So yes, you have massive tax benefits, but also look at the potentially lost growth. If he had to pull out $3 million from his investment portfolio, I mean, Dom, I don't even want to quote what he could be possibly earning on that, but and the viewers know. I mean, that's the real beauty of this, is not only is it a tax-free bucket of money, but it's you as the advisor are going to manage more money for your client longer because you're preserving all of your AUM.
Yeah. And another point that, just came up while you were talking is like, let's say, God forbid, that he came to you guys in, March through April, when the market was dropping like a falling knife, and then have to take $3 million out right then. That's going to be, especially to see all of it have come back since then, would have been really painful. So,
and that's a great point too, as just a hedge against market correction, right? A bucket of money. You don't have to take cash. You can put reverse mortgage proceeds into a line of credit. And that line of credit has a guaranteed growth rate. The growth rate's 0.5% over the interest rate. Today's interest rates are high 2s, low 3s. So right now, about 3.5%. So you put funds into a line of credit that are going to earn 3.5% compounding growth over the life of the loan. That's a great bucket of money to use as a hedge in case market correction. A quick pivot, and you're using the wealth from the home, and you're not pulling from the other assets, which I don't have to educate the viewers on here, because I think most are financial advisors, but I think that we all know the last thing that you want to do to a depleting asset is deplete it even more.
This is true. This is true. This is true. I think your points are really really well taken. Let's talk about this notion of feel free to give another example. This notion of kind of like the mechanics. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit trail here. I think if people want to use this as a tool, A, educate yourself, B, develop a relationship with an expert like yourself. If for whatever reason, it doesn't work out with you, but definitely educate yourself on this and find somebody that really specializes in this, instead of just trying to YouTube or Google it and think you can do it all yourself. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. Talk about the kind of the mechanics on this, because so like if I'm paying a mortgage right now, and I'm age 62, I don't own my house free and clear. Is there a certain percentage of what I can kind of take out, or is this the only way that I can ever do a product like this is if the house is completely and totally paid off?
No, we have a lot of clients right now that are using it for the single purpose of paying off their existing loan, eliminating that mandatory mortgage payment. Now they have a flexible payment going forward. They can make it or not. Most don't, because the whole premise is to create additional cash flow, but you can make payments. But yeah, a lot of folks use the reverse mortgage to pay off a mortgage. On average, at 62 to 70, you're able to borrow roughly 50% of your home's value.
Okay.
And that's important to understand as well. There's a lot of other mortgages out there. There's VA loans. There's conventional mortgages that are going to let you borrow more. And sometimes folks get hung up on that. Well, you're not giving me all the value of my home. We're not buying your home. We're just releasing some of the equity in the home. And if we lent you 90% of the home's value, and you decided never to make a payment, then that makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be upside down very shortly. And we can talk about how you never leave a debt to your heirs in your estate, and you technically won't really be upside down, but we'll do that later on.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks take it to just pay off a mortgage. A lot of folks take a 10-year payment, which is a mortgage in reverse, hence the name, where the lender is going to just send you a check every month. We tell you how much you qualify for, and then you can just say, hey, I want to take it as a 10-year, basically an income annuity that the house pays you, and you're going to get a fixed check every month for the rest of your life. You can also take it as a term payment, over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Again, we tell you how much you qualify for, and then we tell you what that check would be each month for the next 10, 20, 30 years, however long you're going to set it up for. You can take it as a line of credit, as we touched on. The most powerful way, I think, to structure a reverse mortgage is a combination of all of the above. And that depends on what the needs and goals of the client are. So that's where we do a deep dive. We do a financial assessment. We look at all their needs. I'm proud to be one of the only reverse mortgage experts in the country certified in long-term care. That's a big focus for us, because we all know long-term care, that's the #1 wrecking ball to any retirement plan. And it sneaks up quick, and most people in their lifetime will need some level of long-term care. So we look at long-term care, we look at life insurance, we look at all of their potential needs, and we educate them how the reverse mortgage could potentially help fund those needs. Oftentimes it's, I want to pay off my mortgage and get rid of that payment. I need a little bit of cash to do some renovations to make the home more suitable for me as I'm aging in place. And let's set up a line of credit as a bucket of money that's going to sit over here. So if and when I need it, it's there, and that's my rainy day, my safety net.
Yeah.
So mechanics wise, that's kind of how the options work. And then it's just all tailored and customized from there.
So tell me if I'm wrong here. This in the discussion we're having, I'm just listening to this, and it sounds so much like permanent insurance, where if you really didn't want to pay for an insurance policy, go through underwriting, do all of the things that you have to do, especially in a pandemic. I've actually placed some policies in a pandemic, and the questions that are on this questionnaire they're getting ridiculous. But anyways, it has a lot of similarities there, because I always talk about life insurance in the context of transferring or retaining risk, right? Does it make sense to transfer the risk to somebody with deeper pockets at a smaller cost, or negligible cost to you? Or do we want to retain the risk? Well, with life and income replacement, we probably want to transfer the risk. With our car getting scratched, maybe we want to retain the risk. In this particular case, reverse mortgages seem like another bullet in the holster, if you will, of how I can transfer risk. However, it just happens to be my asset, which is kind of cool, because I don't have to go through any underwriting on my asset, right?
And I think what a lot of folks overlook, and they overcomplicate it. It's really a simple concept. It's a mortgage in reverse that's government insured, and no, you don't lose your house and all those things. But let's just break it down to the simplest form that I know how. And this is an example that I give in all my presentations and seminars. You worked hard your whole life. You made money. You put some of it over here in savings. You invested some in a 401k or an IRA. If you were really smart and savvy, you invested on top of that, and hopefully had a financial advisor and somebody who knew what they were doing. Maybe you have a life insurance, which is another bucket of money, especially if it's a whole policy that has some cash value. Maybe you bought some long-term care, but then you have this whole bucket of money over here that is your house that you've been dropping money into, making payments without even realizing it. You've created a nest egg, which in most cases is the largest portion of your net worth. Doesn't it make sense to just bring that into the equation, right? Whether you do it or not, whether you're going to actually borrow from the home or not, that's a different story. But my gosh, be educated on it. Have the conversation, because that is where a lot of your money lies. And most folks don't realize how much equity they have. Number one, I talk to clients every day. They're like, my house is worth what? I mean, yeah, we're in one of the hottest housing markets that we've seen in quite some time. I mean, really, the pre-recession or the last financial downturn of 08 and 09, housing values are strong right now. You might have a lot more equity in your home than you realize, and that equity can be leveraged at today's values. And that's another great make that I want to bring up is you're locking in how much you can borrow in today's values. If your home declines next week, you're borrowing on today's value. It's insured by FHA. So even if you set it up as a line of credit, think back, Dom, what happened in 08, 09. Folks had lines of credit that were their safety nets. And the bank said, nope. And they did that as soon as COVID got serious. JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, a lot of the big banks said no more borrowing from the home. And they got very restrictive. It's gotten a little less restrictive, but reverse mortgages are federally insured. If you borrow money at today's value, that your line of credit cannot be frozen, cannot be suspended, cannot be called due, so long as you comply with the loan terms and the responsibilities, which are you got to pay your taxes, you got to pay you got to pay your homeowner's insurance, and you got to maintain the home because you own the home. Yeah. But that's another avenue where that makes the reverse mortgages very unique and different from traditional mortgages is that federally insured element.
Yeah. No, you're doing a ton of education, and I still want to get to questions. So let's talk about one that I think that financial advisors, planners, professionals need to think about when forming a strategic center of influence or alliance with yourself, because I think we've hit on a couple of things here, and I think that I think it, and I would like to know your opinion because I asked. Obviously, I want to know your opinion. I think that it starts with the fiduciary mindset of what's best for my client, right? I may not be bringing home all the money. I may not have 100% of the wallet share. That's cool. That's okay. What's going to be best for Mr. and Mrs. Joe client, right? Because at the end of the day, that's why we're in this business. We're in the business to help people. Do you have any other tips on like how people get into a relationship with yourself or centers of influence? If we just kind of zoom out and broaden the picture when you're assembling your team of experts to help your clients and bring value.
I think one great point to make to the financial advisors is there's a big difference between a mortgage loan originator and a reverse mortgage expert. Big difference. Right. My mortgage license, my NMLS licensed, allows me to do both traditional and forward. I could try to do a traditional mortgage right now. It would probably take me 90 days and I'd get everything wrong. I'd probably stumble my way through it. Wouldn't be the best service to the client. Maybe it gets done. Maybe it doesn't. Unfortunately, that's the mindset that a lot of traditional mortgage loan originators have today. And it's nothing against them. They're allowed to do it. Right. So they're going to try to do it. But there is a huge difference between what I understand about retirement planning, my certification in long-term care, my knowledge and expertise, and my team's knowledge and expertise in everything to do about reverse mortgages versus somebody who doesn't specialize in it. So my one point of advice is if you're going to work on a reverse mortgage with a client, of course, we would love to be a resource for you. But if it's not us, find somebody who specializes in reverse mortgages. Regarding center of influences, within my circle of influence, I have estate attorneys. I think they're paramount especially for an older demographic. A lot of financial advisors, insurance agents, both life insurance and just property and casualty insurance. I think that's important, making sure that their risks are covered and managed properly. Divorce attorneys and bankruptcy attorneys are great referral partners for us. Right now, gray divorce, older senior divorce is through the roof. Why is that? It's because a lot of husbands and wives are locked down together. At least that's my opinion. And my wife is way downstairs right now. I hope she didn't just hear that. But it's true. We're getting so many referrals from divorce attorneys right now. The reverse mortgage is an incredible way to divide assets and not leave somebody out hanging out to dry. Right? It's a great way for one to stay in the home and cash out the other spouse for 50%. without, hanging somebody out to dry. That in most cases that happens in divorce. Real estate agents, you can purchase a home with a reverse mortgage. Most real estate agents don't understand that you can do that. Yes, you can do that, and it's an incredible tool to use as well. And that's probably a whole nother podcast, because I can go on for an hour about that.
You're dropping some nuggets on here, but I didn't know that.
I think if you're doing best by your client, you should always have folks that you can turn to that are vetted and trustworthy and reliable. Home contractors are great partners for us. A lot of our clients want to retrofit the home and make it more suitable for their needs as they age. So we work with, and we get a lot of referrals from home contractors. And, I'll have a conversation with anybody and tell them what I do, and maybe they send me a referral, maybe they don't. But I also provide a lot of value to my circle of influence outside of the realm of reverse mortgages. I'm a sponge for information about marketing and branding. I've been on a mission to personally brand myself and to brand my company under my name for about 5 or 6 years now. And I just made the decision a while back. I'm not going to, I love my company that I work for, but I'm the business, right? And I'm going to brand myself. And I think it's a little bit more difficult for financial advisors because you have a lot of regulatory and compliance issues there. But brand yourself however you can. Be the expert in your space and bring folks into the equation that sometimes you wouldn't even think would be great referral partners, but givers gain. I mean, BNI, that's just the BNI mantra, is givers gain. And I think the more you give to your centers of influence and to your community, whether that be through charity or giving or philanthropy, referrals, it just all comes back in spades.
No, I won't disagree with that one iota. I think something you've touched on with what you've been saying, and you didn't use the word, but you've been all around it, which is niche, right? Having a specialization, which I tell financial professionals all the time, is like, find a group of people. Maybe when you come into the business, it's a little harder. I would argue that you can start from the beginning, especially if you're a career changer. And I'm going to get on my pedestal for just a second here. But if you're a career changer and you've spent 10, 15, 20 years doing something. I talk about this advisor that I worked with and consulted with that used to be a doctor, and he always loved personal financial planning, and he went back, got his CFP. Who do you think he went back to and started to understand their needs, understand their pain points the best? The doctor community, right? It makes a whole lot of sense. He knew the ins and outs of trying to sell a practice, trying to keep employees happy, the whole nine. So I think there's a level of transferable skill sets that help you build a niche in any industry, financial services included, just like you've done with the reverse mortgage specialist.
And that's how you organically build a brand, right? You just become known as the expert in your space, and being the expert in my space has opened up a lot of doors, right? A lot of media opportunities where I'm in rotation in our local news market. Every 90 to 120 days, I'm on the news talking about reverse mortgages, newspaper articles. I have folks from across the country reaching out to cover stories about reverse mortgages. And, me being the expert in the field, it's really helped to set me apart. The riches are in the niches. And I'm a big believer in that. And I'm also a big believer that you can't be all things to everybody. If you try to be all things to everybody, you're just going to be average at all of those things. So I agree. Pick one thing, be the best at it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's pop into some questions real quick, man. I've gotten, I know you can kind of see some. I'm going to pick and choose here. I'm not going to get everybody today because Steve has a lot of information. And if you want to check him out, I'm going to put his information up real quick, and I'll put it up again later. You need to go visit him and his team because he knows what he's talking about. Obviously, you can tell that in the last 40 minutes that we've been talking, he knows what he's talking about. So you need to consult experts. I'm a huge believer in leverage. People, I don't believe this, but I tell them that as a financial advisor, I still receive financial advice and input from another professional, not my own, not myself, right? Because there's bias with what I tell myself. So, just practice what you preach, people, and go support. So, all right, here we go. I saw something real quick I wanted to hit on because it looked like a question that would be really good. Give me a second here. Where is it at? Oh, here we go. Dan Sherman says, I have a client that is 72, has very limited assets, and her home is only worth $400,000. She doesn't have LTC, and I'm concerned that she might need that wealth at the end of life. Do you buy the LTC policy with the reverse mortgage? What if she doesn't meet the 3 requirements for the policy? Is she still a good candidate? I want to lob this up because I was like, you'd probably be perfect to answer this.
Yeah, we help to fund a lot of long-term care, whether that's insurance policies or just providing cash flow to cover long-term care. So the way that we do that is this, because you got to be careful about the advice you give to the clients compliance-wise and regulation-wise. You can't say, hey, go take a reverse mortgage and bring that money back to me and use this money to pay for the policy. What we do is we free up the cash flow. So I don't know if she has a mortgage balance, but let's say she has a $400,000 home and owes $100,000 on it. Maybe she has a mortgage payment of $1,000 a month. We're going to pay off that mortgage. We're going to free up that $1,000 a month. I don't know how much this policy may cost if she qualifies, but that additional cash flow can help fund a long-term care policy. And then if they want to, right, the client can make their own decision to cash out the reverse mortgage and fund their policy. Maybe it's a one-time pay policy or something of that nature. But we have to be careful that we're not advising them to go do that. They need to be educated about both products and then make their decision from there as to how they're going to qualify or how they're going to fund it. She may be a candidate for a reverse mortgage. I would love to explore that for you. So certainly reach out to me. I'll work up a scenario and, get right back to you.
Cool. So thanks, Dan, for the question. I think that was a good one. Appreciate you, Stephen. Roxanne says, is there a huge balloon payment if you want to ultimately keep the house for legacy, etc.?
Great question. Great question. So the way that the payback works is this. So let's assume, like most people don't, that there's no payment being made. The balance is going to increase over time. When the loan comes due, the amount owed is going to be the original balance plus the amount of interest that's accumulated over time. At closing, we provide an amortization schedule that tells them every year how much the balance is going to rise. So there's full transparency and there's no shock at the end. Yeah. Now, let's say the heirs take over the home. Mom and dad, they owe $300,000. The value of the home is $350,000. The heirs would pay off the $300,000. They would walk with $50,000, and that's their inheritance. That's no different whether it's a reverse mortgage or a traditional mortgage. Reverse mortgages are different, however. Let's say there's nothing left over. In fact, let's say there's a $400,000 balance and the home is worth $350,000. All government-insured reverse mortgages have reverse mortgage insurance on them that acts like gap insurance for your car, right? You total your car, the insurance company cuts you a check for $20,000, you owe $30,000, the gap insurance pays the difference of $10,000. Reverse mortgages have gap insurance on them. If there's more owed on the home than the value of the home at the time of sale, the heirs are not responsible. The estate is not responsible for that overage. The overage is covered and paid by the FHA insurance policy. So the heirs at that point would just walk away free and clear. They would get no inheritance from the home. But we go back to misconceptions. Another big misconception, and I don't want to take too much time because I know we only have 10 more minutes left, is that I'm going to leave, if I do a reverse mortgage, I'm going to leave less to my heirs. And that's just simply not true. You may leave less home equity, but we go back to planning and we go back to preservation of other assets. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to leave them a smaller nest egg. Maybe having the reverse mortgage allowed you to fund long-term care, fund the insurance policy that's going to pay off all of your debt, or protect and preserve the other assets under management. So the nest egg as a whole grows bigger. But back to this question, you cannot leave a debt to your heirs or to your estate that's not covered by the insurance.
Perfect. Maybe one more and some parting thoughts. Marcus says, what about clients who would like to use this option to purchase investment properties, which you touched on a little bit, in order to create a legacy? Are clients precluded from using these funds for other investments? So I guess they would, in this instance, a loan is a loan. You can decide to use the cash for however you want, correct?
Yeah. If you're going to cash out, you can use that cash and repurpose it however you see fit. The reverse mortgage must be on the primary residence. So you can't purchase your investment property using the reverse mortgage, but you can certainly take a lump sum distribution from the equity in the home and apply that towards an investment property. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. I think I'll grab this last one here. So are we advocating for reverse mortgages over annuities? I don't think it's one or the other. I think it is largely, at least from the context of this conversation, we brought up the point that this largely gets overlooked. I guess in comparison to an annuity or a more traditional product, things that they teach us about in, curriculum for financial advisors and things of that nature. However, if you're going to be, I would say, acting in the best interest of your client and bringing value to that relationship, which is where I started this whole conversation, is as a financial advisor, how do I bring value to that client? How do I, solidify my point or my place in that relationship from other competition or incumbents or whatever? There's things that you can do, obviously on the soft skill side and things of that nature. However, there's other ways you can really, be, I would say, demonstrably prove your value. And that's by bringing in products and solutions like what Stephen and I were talking about in the reverse mortgage. So hopefully that answers your question. It's not one or the other. It's both, actually, or more than both. It could be a combination of things. Cool, man. So you have been so gracious with all your information, and I'm putting your information back up. All the data you've given us, I'm putting your information back up so everybody can kind of see how to connect with you. Kind of give me a summary of, if I was a financial professional with a book of business, let's say, my average client age is 60. Which is not too uncommon. That's the typical financial advisor. What would you say is the kind of like the first step to starting to look at other options outside of the traditional asset allocation spectrum and ways to deliver on a plan? What would be the first piece of advice, or maybe the most important piece of advice you would give to them to start to think about if they were, of the more traditional mindset?
To me, that's simple. Build a trusted, vetted network of professionals that can be called on to help serve the needs of your client, whatever those needs may be.
I love it. I love it. Stop trying to be the be all end all. I know financial advisors, and I've had this problem myself in my career, is you feel that you have to have all the answers, and that's just not true. I think a lot of people would agree that it's ridiculous to feel that way, but when you actually put rubber to the road, you still act that way. You run your business that way. You think that way. You make decisions that way. And to your point, start building a Rolodex of people that you can outsource stuff to, and not be afraid to trust them with your clients and build that relationship and start to add that value. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, man, this has been great. Anything else you want to kind of leave us with before we close up shop here?
I am just, I'm so grateful for the opportunity and appreciative for everybody that joined us tonight and everybody that's going to view this as you and I both share it on all of our social media platforms. If anybody, I see the website is up, definitely reach out to me through there. You can schedule a call with me through there, but LinkedIn too. LinkedIn is phenomenal. It's where you and I, Dom, met for the first time, and I would love to connect with you, have a conversation with you, schedule a time, block out an hour to help you with a professional better serve the needs of your clients, and connecting through LinkedIn would be a great start.
That is excellent. That's excellent. If we didn't get to your question, you can definitely send those to this address here, and I will try to direct that as best as possible. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Steve, for hanging with us for an hour, buddy, man. And I wish you well, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
All right.